Hi, this is Chris Bianchi with Resolute Philanthropy, and let me tell you a story. This is a story that takes place in the dark ages of March 2020. So this was before everyone was staying at home, before there was quarantine rules, before we even knew kind of what to expect. I was leading a fundraising team at the time at Habitat for Humanity of Orange County. We had just canceled our in-person fundraising breakfast. This was a really tough decision because I didn't know if it was the right decision or not at the time, um, and I also knew I had a really big hole in my fundraising budget because this in-person event we needed to bring in north of $100,000 to this event, and now that money kind of disappeared. And I remember thinking, really just kind of being stuck, feeling stuck, not knowing like, well, what do we do now? I don't know. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. And then my team members came into my office and said, we can do an online day of giving on the same day we were going to do the breakfast. Let's do that instead. Now, we had never done one of these. This was 2020, so it was still, I think, a little early before online days of giving were a real kind of common fundraising terminology. It was certainly new for our team and our donors. We weren't even sure we had the technical capacity to do it, but we made the decision right then and there to go for it. And there's probably more stories to tell about how that actually worked. Spoiler alert, it worked really well. Why I think it worked, and some of the strange things we had to learn on the fly while building this online day of giving while we were quarantined. Um, that's for another time. The point I want to make, and the thing I want to shine a light on, is my reaction to my team members' idea. They came to me with an idea which I had never done before. I had no experience doing. I wasn't sure if or how we could do it. There's a lot of questions. And I think it was because I trusted my team that I said yes. Because I knew the individuals standing in my office they weren't casual acquaintances. These were people I knew well who had, I don't want to say a vested interest because that sounds like it's a money thing, but they were committed to the mission. And I knew they were committed to the mission, and I knew they were going to bring me ideas that were sound, and I trusted them to do that. So there was this moment where it was not a sure thing, but the trust I had in my team is what prompted me to say yes, and we repurposed and we got it done. And it was frankly one of the highlights of my career was to see the team come together and to be able to pull this together. But it really, I think, points out how critical trust is in the fundraising environment. We talk a lot about how we want to make sure the donors have trust in the organization, trust that we will spend their money in the right way, that we will share stories of impact and gratitude, that we will do the right thing for the donors or with the donors. That feeling of trust needs to be within the organization too. And whether your fundraising team is a really big team, maybe it's a really small team, maybe it's just you and the board and your finance team or your programs team, however you want to define it, people have to trust one another in order for us to do the work. And I think it's because there's so many times where we're going to be challenged with something unknown or presented with an opportunity that we may not even recognize as an opportunity. And oftentimes it's the trust we have in one another that gives us the courage to say, yeah, let's try it. Yeah, let's do it. Like, here's an example from the world of science fiction, which is a world I absolutely love. Um, One of the things I love about Star Trek, specifically Star Trek The Next Generation, is there's a scene in a number of episodes. It's a very common Star Trek trope where one character is experiencing something strange, right? They feel like something unusual is happening. There might be invisible aliens or time travel or parallel universes or whatever it is, some wild thing, and only one person might be experiencing it. And they have in the show, they have this one person go to the other characters and say, hey, this is this thing I'm experiencing, or here's this wild idea to solve this problem we're all facing. And what I love, for reasons that escape me sometimes, I love when the rest of the crew says, great, let's do it. Or when they say something to the effect of, well, we haven't seen that, but we trust you. So let's assume that's happening to you and let's trust each other and figure out the solution. Now I know it's a scripted program and blah, 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 blah. But leadership inspiration comes from all sorts of places, including the pieces of fiction that we go back to time and time and time again. Those pieces of art that bring us joy, we can learn a lot from them. And I think that's a really important lesson that Star Trek teaches is that, hey, if you've built the team, your job as a leader is really to trust that team, to help you, let that team help you achieve the shared mission you all have. And I think it's a leadership failure when we say, no, well, maybe that's what you're feeling, but I'm not really sure, or let me study it more closely. In the case of my time at Habitat, I very could have easily said, that's pretty risky. I don't know how we can do that. Let's wait and see what happens next. Or you know, let's meet more times about it, or let's not do that because we've never done it before and I don't want to try something new right now. That might have been a perfectly understandable response for me to have in that moment, but it also would have been the wrong one because not only would we have missed that opportunity to try something new, to engage our donors, to raise money. We raised more money that year than we did the year before with the breakfast. But it was also an opportunity for my team members to understand and to see that when they've got something they're passionate about, they could bring it to me, and odds are, if it's a good idea, we're going to go for it. That trust helps me stay open to new opportunities, open to new ideas, and it sends a message, I hope sent a message to the rest of my team that we're going to try new things together. They might not always work, but we're going to try new things together. I bring this up today because when we're thinking about fundraising as a profession, I think leadership skills are really underdeveloped in a lot of fundraising teams. I think a lot of organizations, for budget reasons or whatever reason, they don't think about investing in leadership training for fundraisers. They only, unless that fundraiser is kind of coming up to like that vice president or chief development officer kind of level. But we know that leadership isn't tied to job title. Leadership is how you carry yourself, how you treat one another, how you approach teamwork and opportunity and collaboration. So I really believe that one of the ways we can develop stronger fundraising programs is to really engage our team members, engage our fundraisers in leadership skills training. I think it's really, really important. And it just so happens I'm talking about some leadership skills training later this month. That's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about Star Trek. I am presenting with Lianna Olds from the Emergency Food Network here in Tacoma. We're talking about nonprofit leadership. We're talking about how to build team and culture. We're talking about values and vision and accountability. We're talking about trust and assumed intent. We're talking about the importance of building the right team. And we're doing it all under the framework or within the framework of Star Trek. It might be the nerdiest thing I've done in my professional life, maybe. But I'm really excited because there's some really, I think, important leadership lessons that you can unlock by looking at some of the lessons from this silly little science fiction show that's been on for 60 plus years. So if you're interested in learning about that kind of stuff, reply to this video, drop a note in the comments below, or email me and let me know, and I'd love to invite you to the webinar and kind of give you a chance to learn. If that doesn't float your boat, if you're not really interested in that, I do encourage you to think about fundraising as a leadership exercise, because maybe it's less about how you write that last email and more about how you're walking into that office, how you're treating one another, and what kind of team and what kind of trust are you building within that team, because the work we're doing is very important, and we've got to trust each other because things are going to happen, and it's going to be, I think, again, the secret sauce that helps a team really succeed and not only hit your goals, but go above and beyond. So I'll put some information below. You can also find information about it on LinkedIn. And I really hope you'll kind of dig into this and talk with me about leadership. All right, that's all for today. Keep up the great work. Bye.